What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Sit Down Saturday, and today we are going to go over the recent reveals from third-party companies that have been popping up all over the place. Kind of give you what my thoughts are about them, kind of give you what I think is kind of looking good or promising, or vice versa. I have to apologize to the Patreon folks. This is going to be a big retread of the shop talk that was on yesterday. So honestly, you guys could probably go ahead and skip this and be fine. That conversation was a lot more in-depth anyway. Now, a couple things to get out of the way. One, I'm feeling under the weather, so I got some congestion. Forgive my voice. It is struggling. Two, on that red buzzer, a lot of people giving me grief about me saying the 4 molds because it reuses the engineering and it's retooling of the mold, and like, you guys, like, stop being so pedantic. Knock it off. If I say it's 4:45 and it's 4:43, give me a break. As for the Springer, I did miss something. I missed this whole accessory. It's like the little human-esque character. I think it's a little weird that it's out of scale with the other human-esque characters. Obviously, it's a different thing, right? Because it's like Springer it's like an avatar almost of Springer, or Springer as a human. But he was human size, right? So I think it's weird that they made him so big, so to speak. And we will be doing a versus with Apache, I think, next week. I also have an interview with a third-party designer. That's going to be coming soon also. So a lot of exciting things in the future, but today we're going to go ahead and get into these reveals. And there's only one place to start, and that's at the beginning. Let's get started. And we'll start with this Iron Factory Lockdown. Lockdown has obviously become kind of a fan favorite over time. He's one of those characters that kind of seems retro G1. So I think it makes sense that they would use him as another character in their line, but I don't think that this one is super effective. And to me, the robot looks absurd and ridiculous and kind of a wasted effort. I think the alt mode works well enough, but the robot mode just leaves so much to be desired. Everything about it seems unfinished to me. In fact, the only thing that I would give credit to regarding it is the head sculpt, which I do think looks good. But I think the real takeaway from Iron Factory showing was their Grimlock. I think it's a super smart way to address this figure in this kind of samurai style. The way that the armor plating works in both dinosaur mode and robot mode, down to little things like how the weapons and such form up for the flags and the rear hips. I just think it's so smart, so clever, and good looking. I think even as a one-off piece, it's going to be a pretty good buy. My only issue is how far down the front arms seem to sit. That's all I got. Moving on to Newage. I will be honest, I was first kind of concerned with the color match on the hips, but they have assured folks that that is just a prototype issue and it will be the right color for release. And to me, I think this figure is fantastic. It looks like they nailed it. The sculpt is there. Their materials are usually spot on, and the articulation appears to just be second to none. This company is really good at what they do, and from the looks of this, it doesn't look like they're slipping at all. Solid looking unit. Fans Hobby continues to show teaser images for some of their stuff, including their kind of Energy Commander combiner set, which I don't know too much about, but my understanding that people are quite excited about it, and I wish them the very best. And then also their Double Agent, which I think crosses a bit more over into my world, but still doesn't mean a whole lot to me. But I'm happy to see the more obscure characters get their day in the sun. So no complaints on my end, just not much excitement either. I do want to spend a fair amount of time on this. Planet X has shown their Victory Leo, which is supposed to be done in somewhat of a IDW design. And I don't think Victory Leo is actually in IDW, so it's kind of their take on it. And I think they did a fantastic job on the robot. I think it's a really smart draft of it. I think it's a really smart design of it. I find it to be quite clever, and I think aesthetically it's going to look great on a shelf next to the Star Saber. I think the same thing kind of goes for the Lion mode. I think they really pulled off something interesting and something that deserves, at the very least, a head nod in their direction. They showed the jet mode too, which is fine. The problem is I feel like they throw it all away on the Victory Saber mode. I think the shoulders are too bulky. The hips remain too small for the shoulder bulk. And then because of the bulk that's added to the ankles, it makes the whole thing look kind of silly. I guess they were trying to kind of utilize all of it. Ultimately, it's just some shoes and a backpack, right? But I think that extra stuff on the shoulders really takes away from it. Now, my question is that a piece that's removable? And if it is, then you might have something decent on your hands, but at the very least, at least they'll look good as robots next to each other. Fans Toys has what is, in my opinion, their most lackluster reveal to date. It's pretty much just advancements of other things they've shown before. Nothing new to kind of set the world on fire. But we do get a picture of their dead end. Oh wait, that's just Cliff Jumper.
And we do get a picture of him. And at first glance, I think he looks great. And I'm definitely in for him, don't get me wrong. But unfortunately, it was pointed out to me here in this second picture that he too is going to have an awful lot of members invited to the party on his back. And they've done a good job in most of these pictures in trying to hide it, but he's definitely got a backpack that means business. And I was really kind of bummed to see that. Not that I think it makes the figure a miss. I think it still looks good. I just, to be honest, at first glance, thought it was perfect until that was pointed out to me, and now I can't not see it. Alt mode and stuff looks great, no surprise there. The Powerglide. The Powerglide is an interesting one because it looks to be done in kind of the older school Fans Toy style where it's not very close to the Toon model. I think if you were to look at this and look at the DX9 is going to be far closer to the Toon. So for those that are tracing the Toon aesthetic, I would suggest to go after the DX9. That being said, I like the way this looks because it looks a little different from the cartoon and it looks a little bit more modern. My only concern is the wings and the way that the flap folds up on them. I'm not sure of how I feel about that. I think what's amazing about it though is how they were able to kind of stretch out the jet mode to sort of put it not perfectly in scale, but at least in the ballpark of the Seeker jets. I think that's really quite clever. I think the jet mode is arguably perfect. The robot mode, I think, doesn't really match the modern aesthetic. I think a lot of people will have to have a kind of a come to Jesus moment in regard to how they feel about Fans Toys versus how they feel about the Toon aesthetic, which would be interesting to see nonetheless for me from the outside looking in. And they showed their blaster, who is the talk of the town. And people seem to be upset with the chrome chest. I mean, I guess I get it. I think that I don't like the chrome chest either, but I think the reason why I don't like the chrome chest is because it doesn't match the super plain aesthetic of the robot. But let me be clear, I much prefer the chrome chest with a more interesting robot than this plain looking robot with a chrome chest, if that makes sense. And I'd much prefer the chrome chest on a more interesting looking robot rather than a plain looking robot like this with a yellow chest. I think this looks fine. The gold chest does look out of place, but I wish wherever that place fit that they actually made that robot as opposed to this one. This doesn't look interesting to me, and that's kind of my biggest complaint about this figure. Now, I will say, on the other hand, I think the tapes looks stunning. Whether or not they're effective is a completely different question because hopefully they don't load down the legs and hips with die-cast and make them pretty much a wash like they did with the Decepticon tapes. But I do think that they look fantastic. I think this steel jaw looks far better than the Takara offering that they of course haven't done in the right deco yet. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the gold chest doesn't bother me as much as the general Super Toon aesthetic of the toy in the first place. So the gold chest didn't hurt my feelings. Real quick, we'll address Pipes on the way out of here. I think he looks fine. No issues, no complaints. He looks like a Pipe. He's a retooling of the Huffer mold, and that was a great figure, so I'm definitely picking this up. Planet X showed up and showed their masterpiece styled IDW take on Snarl, which I think looks great. And I guess this is the monetarily smart way to go about this. However, I was far more hoping that the Grimlock was a sign that we might get a set of Scavengers, more than I was hoping that it was going to get us a set of Dinobots. If you follow IDW, the Dinobots aren't really as big a part of that series as the Scavengers are. And had they done the Scavengers, I would have gone full blast in on the whole set, just to have a set of Scavengers. I would have preferred them been kind of chug scale, but they would have had me. But I'm probably in the minority, and that's okay. I can accept that. And I hope you guys are happy, and I hope that you guys support this if you're into it, because it does look good for what it's supposed to be. Now, there's a little bit of controversy that surrounds this next set of stuff that we're going to talk about. And that's this seemingly new company that I think has already kind of come out to be revealed as Zeta. And Zeta seems to be making, under a different name, Toys Easy, a set of combining robots that are based on battleships and historical figures like samurai. And then lastly, one that's seemingly based on an SS officer. And apparently this has raised a little bit of a controversy. I had a really stimulating discussion about it on Wednesday on Shop Talk on Patreon. But my general thoughts are they made it a Nazi soldier because it's supposed to be a bad guy. And they were picking bad guys from history. And if you don't think that Nazis are a good choice for a bad guy, I would say you probably need some therapy. It doesn't get much more disgusting than a Nazi. And I think they chose that on purpose for a villain. The skull face and all that kind of stuff, not this skull face, mind you, but a much angrier, more vicious looking skull face. I think all of that is intended to really drive home the point that these are nasty characters here. Speaking of Zeta, though, under Moon Studios, they're doing a Primus, which I do think is a quite clever way to go about getting some extra money out of that engineering. I can see many people that aren't into the character of Primus going in on this just specifically to get a Cybertron presentation in planet mode, which I think would look good. I'm actually going to look and see if I can't figure out a place on my shelf where it would make sense for me, because I do think it would be a nice piece to have. Cybertron is one of those things that kind of has a character in and of itself in the G1 cartoon. And then lastly, the thing that kind of stole the reveals for me, ironically, or perhaps not so, was something not shown in the reveals at all, but in fact was shown days later, which is MMC's robots and Steeljaw sitting together, and I think they look perfect and can't come soon enough. I am here for it. I have a fistful of money, and I will throw it immediately at your face the moment that you make these available. I want these not now, but right now. Show me where to sign up. Show me where to send my money. I'll be first in line. I guarantee you. Reveal of the weekend, in my opinion.
And that does it. I'm going to go pound some Dayquil and kind of get on with my day. I was a little disappointed not to see anything from Magic Square. I was a little disappointed not to see anything from Zeta in regards to their Predaking. Those are the two biggest disappointments for me. Of course, Fans Toys showing a dead end would have been nice, but we can't ask for the world now, can we? Hope I made my point clear about the Blaster Gold chest. I'm not crazy about this design in general. I think it looks too plain. Simultaneously, the chest, the gold chrome, is probably too much pizzazz for it. But whatever that gold chest wasn't enough pizzazz for is the design of Blaster I wish we got in the first place, if that makes sense. I'll be back next week, and of course with reviews Monday, Wednesday, and dummies on Friday. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.